3 days. That's how long your refrigerator keeps food safe when the power goes out.
Everything you spent money on, the vegetables, the meat, the leftovers, gone. 3 days.
Now imagine your great-grandmother hearing that, because to her, 3 days was nothing. She stored food that lasted 3 months, 6 months, a year and a half without a single appliance.
And she did it in ways that made the food more nutritious, not less.
Here is what happened, and it happened remarkably fast.
In 1920, less than 1% of American homes had mechanical refrigeration. By 1950, over 80% did. In 30 years, an entire infrastructure of food preservation knowledge, built over 5,000 years of human civilization, became unnecessary. People stopped teaching it, stopped practicing it, stopped building the structures that supported it. The refrigerator companies did not set out to destroy that knowledge. They didn't need to. They just made the alternative so convenient that the old methods stopped being passed down.
And then, 3 generations later, most Americans have no idea that their great-grandparents kept vegetables fresh through entire winters without electricity, without canning, without a freezer.
The methods still work. They work as well today as they did in 1890. Nobody is teaching them because nobody profits from a wooden crate and a pile of sand.
I'm going to show you 4 of them.
You already know this works. You've tasted it. That jar of sauerkraut that sat in someone's refrigerator for 3 months and was somehow still perfectly edible. That's lacto-fermentation doing what lacto-fermentation has always done, creating an environment where beneficial bacteria thrive and harmful bacteria cannot survive. That cool, slightly damp smell in an old farmhouse basement. That's the root cellar principle at work. Stable temperatures, moderate humidity, no light. The same conditions that keep vegetables alive in the ground. You know this because vegetables in the ground don't go bad. A carrot in your garden in November is still a carrot, still crisp, still edible. What you're about to learn is how to recreate those conditions above ground, on purpose, in ways your family can use for the next several decades without plugging anything in. Here is a number worth sitting with. The USDA estimates that American households throw away between 30 and 40% of the food they purchase. Much of that is spoilage. Food bought with intention, stored in a refrigerator, and lost to time. The average American household spends roughly $1,500 per year on food that gets thrown away. Over 10 years, $15,000. Meanwhile, a properly maintained root cellar, which can be built from materials at any hardware store for under $200, can store a season's harvest of root vegetables, winter squash, and apples for 5 to 7 months, without electricity, without ongoing cost. The $200 investment, made once, protects against the $1,500 annual loss indefinitely.
Method number 1. Root cellar storage.
A root cellar is not a complex structure. At its most basic, it is any space that maintains a temperature between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit, with humidity between 85 and 95%, and no direct light. Your basement corner, partially below grade, may already qualify. A section of hillside with a door in it. A pit dug in the ground and covered with straw and a wooden hatch. All of these work. What thrives in these conditions? Carrots, beets, turnips, parsnips, potatoes, winter squash, apples, pears, cabbage. Carrots stored in a root cellar remain crisp and edible for 4 to 6 months. Potatoes last 3 to 5 months. Winter squash keeps for 4 to 6 months at slightly warmer temperatures. Here's the one thing people get wrong. They try to store everything together. Don't do that. Apples and pears release ethylene gas that accelerates ripening in everything nearby. Store them separately from vegetables. Potatoes near apples will sprout faster. Cabbage has a strong odor that transfers. Keep each type in its own bin or section. Other than that, the conditions do the work. You are not preserving the food. You are recreating the conditions the food was already living in before harvest. Method number 2, lacto-fermentation. This is the method that surprises people most when they understand what it actually does. Most food preservation works by slowing or stopping biological activity. You freeze food, you kill the bacteria. You can food with heat, you kill the bacteria. You dry food, you remove the water bacteria need. Lacto-fermentation does the opposite.
You are not killing bacteria. You are cultivating specific bacteria, lactobacillus, that produce lactic acid as they consume sugars in the vegetables. That lactic acid creates an acidic environment where harmful bacteria cannot survive. The beneficial bacteria protect the food from the harmful ones.
The result is food that stores at room temperature for weeks, in a cool cellar for 6 to 12 months, and in a refrigerator essentially indefinitely. And here is what makes this different from every other preservation method.
The food becomes more nutritious than when it was raw.
The fermentation process produces B vitamins, increases the bioavailability of minerals, and adds beneficial bacteria that support digestive health.
The setup is 3 things: vegetables, non-iodized salt, and a clean jar with a lid.
Pack vegetables tightly. Dissolve 2% salt by weight in water. Pour over vegetables until submerged. Leave at room temperature for 3 to 7 days. Transfer to cold storage. That's the method that preserved food on every continent for thousands of years.
2 more. Sand storage. This one is almost absurdly simple, which is probably why it's been forgotten.
Take a wooden crate or plastic bin. Layer clean, slightly damp sand at the bottom, not wet, not dry. Lay root vegetables, carrots, beets, parsnips, celeriac, in a single layer on the sand. Cover with another layer of sand. Another layer of vegetables. Continue until the bin is full.
Store in a cool location, ideally between 32 and 40 degrees.
The sand maintains the humidity around each vegetable, replicating the moisture level of the soil they grew in. It prevents them from drying out and shriveling. It prevents them from touching each other, which slows the spread of rot from one vegetable to another.
Carrots stored this way remain crisp for 4 to 5 months. Beets for 3 to 4 months.
Here's the one thing people get wrong. They use wet sand. The sand should feel barely damp, like sand at the beach an hour after the tide. Too wet and you get rot. Too dry and you get shriveling.
Salt curing. Before refrigeration, salt was more valuable than many spices. Not because people liked salty food, because salt preserved it. Salt draws moisture out of food through osmosis, creating an environment where bacteria cannot survive. A 10% salt solution, 10 grams of salt per 100 grams of water, will preserve most vegetables, meats, and fish for 12 to 24 months.
The method: clean food, salt solution, clean container, cool location, weighted lid to keep food submerged. That is the food security system that fed every army, every navy, every winter community in the Northern Hemisphere for most of recorded history.
It costs the price of salt.
Here is how to start this weekend with whatever you already have.
If you have a cool corner in your basement, and in most houses, one corner stays noticeably cooler than the others, that corner is already most of a root cellar. Line it with wooden shelves. Store your potatoes and winter squash there this fall. Observe the temperature. Add a thermometer. Build from there.
If you have a mason jar and salt, you can start a batch of fermented vegetables today. Any vegetable works. Cabbage, carrots, green beans. Pack, salt, submerge, wait 4 days.
If you have a wooden box or plastic bin, you have sand storage. Buy 1 bag of play sand from any hardware store, $3. Set it up this afternoon. You do not need all 4 methods simultaneously. You need one working system.
Because one working system changes the relationship you have with your food supply permanently. It means that the next time the power goes out for 3 days, you eat well.
2 concerns I know you're holding. First, is fermented food safe?
Lacto-fermentation, when done correctly, is one of the safest food preservation methods available. The lactic acid environment is hostile to pathogens, including E. coli and Salmonella. Traditional fermentation has a safety record spanning thousands of years across every culture that practiced it.
The risks come from contamination before fermentation begins. Dirty equipment, iodized salt that inhibits the beneficial bacteria, or letting the food float above the brine where it's exposed to air and mold. Clean equipment, non-iodized salt. Keep everything submerged. Second, what about my specific climate?
Root cellar temperatures vary by region. In warmer climates, a basement corner may not stay cold enough without some insulation. In very cold climates, an uninsulated root cellar may freeze.
The solution in both cases is the same. Monitor temperatures with a thermometer and adjust. Add insulation if too warm.
Add a light bulb for heat if too cold. The target is 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, stable.
These systems were used successfully in every climate where people grew food. Your specific conditions have a solution. They always did.
The thing about these 4 methods that stays with me is the scale of history behind them.
Root cellars appear in the archaeological record across Europe and North America going back thousands of years. The oldest known purpose-built root cellar in North America dates to the 1600s. They were not rustic or primitive, they were engineered precisely, oriented north for temperature stability, vented carefully for humidity control, built to exacting specifications that reflected generations of accumulated knowledge.
Lacto-fermentation is older still, documented in China 6,000 years ago, present in Korean food culture, Middle Eastern food culture, Eastern European food culture, indigenous food culture across the Americas. Every civilization that grew food developed a version of it independently, because it works everywhere, for everything.
Salt curing preserved the fish that fed ancient Rome, the beef that sustained armies across the American West in the 1800s, the vegetables that kept Northern European communities alive through winters that froze everything above ground.
These are not folk remedies, not lost arts recovered from obscure texts. These are the methods that kept every generation before yours alive through every winter, every shortage, every moment when the supply chain, whatever it looked like at the time, failed.
They failed far more often than ours does, and people survived because they knew what to do with food before it went bad. Now you do too.
Take care. I'll see you in the next one.